So I decided to go back to Plume Monarch for a bit. I did play around a fair bit with the build. And ultimately, here's one thing I will say about the Spirit Channel, or more specifically, like the Supreme Spirit version of that class, is if you do decide to go down that path, I think really ultimately what it comes down to is, you know how you've got like crit rate, combo, counter, stun, evasion, and so on. Like, I went all the way into pal damage, and I tried like 1400% pal damage, and just wasn't getting anything really all that beneficial out of it. So of course I did try to, kind of play around with the deploy effects, and it's like most of the bonuses, are 2 or 3% increases, but it's like what you get in the class benefit for, say, like playing a warrior, or or even going into a certain play style, like say like a Plume Monarch is combo, and then putting that in tandem with crit rate. Like, you can do some pretty interesting stuff in that. With pals in particular, there are certain stats that you're kind of juggling with, which is really more the stats themselves, like combo and crit on the actual pals, and their attack speed and their crit damage. And while there are some tweaks that can be made there, it's like I could never get them high enough to where it was advantageous. Where, like if I say play Plume Monarch, I'm in Revelation 2, 5-3, and I'm going through bots left and right, and it's working just fine because, well, for one thing, the mount, the artifacts, the enchants, everything already plays into this playstyle. I'm not saying you can't play that build. It's just, if you do, I just think that one glaring problem that I found with it was that if you want to go into, say, combo, well, you're missing 20 or so percent. You got to find different angles for it. And so I feel like potentially what I think would probably make a big difference is going to be the people that are using like the 2% max HP reduction that you get on skills. Like, I think if I approached it like a Prophet does, there very well could be an angle there for skill damage, right? And I just haven't got to a point where I have enough and basically invested into my plants really for that to just be an option for me. So for now, I'm just going to kind of go back to running Plume Monarch for a bit, just because it's so much easier to run. And, of course, grabbing the fertilizer and everything and maxing this out is kind of a no-brainer. I mean, you might as well just go ahead and get all your benefits while you can get them. And it's not massive enough for me, really, to see any gain from the class compared to what I'm getting in a Plume Monarch class, that is. I don't know. I could probably try a warrior class sometime, but I'd have to respec, and I just basically need to go through and finish these sets. One of them being I need counter damage, and I'd like to get a class that was all global attack, which I'm debatingly going to probably make that set 3, I think. So I don't know. I'm still playing around with it. It's one of those things that, come the next event, we'll kind of get more, into the actual weeds of things. At this point, I'm mainly just after getting as many seeds as I can in preparation for, and as much fertilizer as I can in preparation for the actual prayer rush. And, it's always kind of a mess. It takes a while. Oh man, I didn't want to do that. Well, whatever. Yeah, that was a waste. But anyway, the main thing is, you can kind of see the idea behind it, though, is like I'm just trying to basically work on as much as I can on the plants. Now, of course, it is Soul Rush and Pal Rush right now, so one thing that we can do real quick is go ahead and do some Soul Prayers here. So I got like 103. So I should have a fair bit. That'll probably give us like, oh yeah, that's not bad, 5,700. And then, of course, when I respec, this is what I run as a respec. The only thing that I'm going to tweak, I think, here is, so you can go in any direction you want. You've got options here for like PAL crit or resistance bonuses. You could go for PAL damage and counter damage, or you could just increase your basic attack damage and skill damage. or you could get defense, and then so on and so on, right? In this particular case, where I'm at right now is kind of a crossroads between one, you either increase the amount of crit damage, basic attack damage, or you even start tweaking the amount of health you have or the amount of combo you have. And there's not really a wrong answer here, but I think for my personal taste, because I'm going about 50%, I'm going to go ahead and let's upgrade this, since that's going to give us just that much more. And crit damage right now is at 4100, so that's going to work out just fine. And with a 50% crit rate and a 60% combo, obviously we'd like to get that combo and crit higher. But like anything, it takes a matter of really basically you've got to hit combo and crit rate and some capacity. All right, and how you do it, I don't know. It's kind of tricky because you've got to get all of the right things in the right places, and that's just, I don't know. It can be a dime a dozen type situation. But of course, if you guys want to save some money, especially like right now with Crazy Fisher, he hadn't already picked up day 5 and got your extra loot, then you can obviously watch this end of the video and save some money, because obviously they got the 30% voucher going on too, so make sure to check that out. But if anything, guys, the main thing is going to be the Panda event, so we'll have that coming up here on the 20th, and that's going to include like a new mount, a new artifact. There's going to be a fair bit of stuff coming, and it's not going to be too, like, I could showcase it, but I think you guys already kind of got an idea of what's coming along, and you'll know once it's here. But in any case, I just thought I'd go ahead and kind of give you an update on where I'm at and where I'm kind of going with things. I might give a relook at all the different classes once I've actually got a point where I can get my sets all kind of fleshed out, like a full counter build or a full, or like for warriors, and get like a fleshed out warrior build built. I'd like to go back to Prophet sometime and really showcase that too, just to kind of show you all the different variations that you can come up with. And you may be wondering, like, why am I using the Celestial Surprises as opposed to like the Virtual Connection, for example? And there's not really a specific reason, but one thing that jumps out at me is the fact that I'm getting 200% 5x, where this is just giving me kind of damage resistance reductions, which is helpful. But when you're wanting to do like flat damage and not necessarily do like something strictly PvP, then it's not as advantageous to reduce reductions. It's like, I mean, while they're there, there's just not enough of them for it to really matter. So it winds up being better anyway for the long term. But the mount itself, on the other hand, is really the only part of the reason why I like Trebling Pepe. And really any of your mounts that give you like a shield, for example, like there's only a couple of them out there actually. And one of them that stood out to me actually is I've been running into players with really high damage resistance and stuff, and that's the other problem. It's like if I could get the Blue Ox, for example, I'd probably have a better shot at actually getting somewhere with my PAL build. It's just we're not anywhere near a point where it's I think could be viable. It's like I got to get the mounts and also the the enchantments and the mounts. There's just so many things that you'd have to tweak to kind of get that class to work, and right now it just isn't there yet. I think it will eventually, and I've played various different classes, and I will say one thing that jumped out at me with that particular build is it surprises the heck out of anybody that runs like, let's say like that. That was just that was good. So we got crit rate and combo there, 6%, and we traded it for skill, crit, and evasion, and we got better stats. That's awesome. That's awesome. So we got 70% combo now, 53% crit. But like I said, that's really kind of the direction that I'm going in, is having to remake a lot of these pieces and kind of get my set more fleshed out. And as far as the skills go, I mean, I think going a full stun blast with this worldly snare is kind of it works for me, but obviously it just kind of varies on what you're doing, I guess. As far as the actual pals are concerned, this is what I'm running on pals. And again, it works for me, and I was kind of curious about what you guys think of the Floral Panda. I'm not really too sure what to make of them, really, but In any case, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to check this part of the video out if you'd like to save some money, and I'll see you guys next time.